This week on Vaticano, Pope Francis travels to the southeastern Italian region of Apulia to pay homage to the servant of God, Don Tonino Bello. Ireland's pro-life battle is in full swing. Get the latest updates and discover how to get involved. Art is the language of peace and a bridge between cultures. Meet the personal portrait artist of the popes, Natalia Tsarkova. For this and more, Vaticano starts now. Pope Francis traveled to the Italian region of Apulia on the occasion of the 25th anniversary of the death of Don Tonino Bello, known as the Bishop of the Last. At 8:30 in the morning, the Pope's helicopter landed at the airport of Alessano, the birthplace of Don Tonino. After praying before his grave, the pontiff stopped to greet 16 relatives of the servant of God. And professed before 20,000 faithful the virtues and great love Don Tonino had for the poor.
For him, understanding the poor was true wealth. It also meant understanding his mother. Understanding the poor was his true wealth. He was right, because the poor are the true wealth of the Church. Remind us again, Don Tonino, in the face of the recurring temptation to side with the powerful, to seek privileges, to settle down in a comfortable life.
Don Tonino Bello lived a love for the least, day after day.
Don Tonino ci richiama a non teorizzare.
Don Tonino calls us not to theorize closeness to the poor, but to actually be close to them, like Jesus did, who made himself poor for us, even though he was rich. Don Tonino felt the need to imitate him by being involved himself in the first person until he stripped himself of his own self. He did not mind the demands. What hurt him was indifference. He was not afraid of lacking money, but was concerned about the uncertainty in the labor market, a problem that is still so actual today.
Problema oggi ancora tanto attuale.
And precisely the battle against unemployment was one of the central battles of Don Tonino's life.
He took every opportunity to say that workers with their dignity came first, not profit with its greed. He never sat on his hands. He acted locally to sow peace globally, in the conviction that the best way to prevent violence and all kinds of wars is to take care of the needy and promote justice. In fact, if war generates poverty, so poverty generates war. Peace, therefore, is built starting from homes, streets, shops, where communion is handmade. A hope-filled Don Tonino used to say, as one day from the workshop of Nazareth, from today's workshop, the word of peace will come forth to direct humanity, thirsty for justice, towards new destinies.
Assetata di giustizia per nuovi destini.
After greeting Don Tonino's compatriots, Pope Francis flew to Molfetta, a coastal city where Bishop Bello served as the bishop from 1982 to 1993. At the harbor, the pontiff celebrated Holy Mass, and as a gesture of closeness, he took with him Don Tonino's episcopal crozier. Pope Francis received an audience 21-year-old Tom Evans from Liverpool, England. He was in Rome to ask the Pope's support for his young boy, Alfie, who has been in hospital for many months, suffering from an unknown degenerative condition.
God bless you. I am moved by your courage.
To sit in the room with the Pope, I felt really touched and blessed that he listened to me, and he looked at me into my eyes and stuff and made the connection with me, so I'm really blessed that I've actually had that opportunity to speak with the Pope and to tell him about Alfie.
The The baby is now 23 months old, but the doctors of Alderhay Hospital announced that there is no hope for little Alfie, as they estimate that 70% of his brain is non-functional. Tom asked that the Pope publicly pronounce that no life is worthless and that only God can decide the beginning and end of a human life.
Attiro l'attenzione di nuovo a Vincent Laurent e al piccolo Alfie Evans.
I draw attention again to Vincent Lambert and little Alfie Evans, and I would like to reiterate and strongly confirm that the only Lord of life, from the beginning to the natural end, is God. And our duty is to do everything to preserve life. Let us reflect in silence and pray that the lives of all people, and especially of these two brothers of ours, are respected. Let us pray in silence.
Specialmente di questi due fratelli nostri. Preghiamo in silenzio.
He told me one thing, that I am right when I say that no one has the right to take anyone's life away from them apart from God. It's all in God's hands and it all remains in God's hands, and he quoted me on that and I quoted it too.
Following this principle, Alfie's parents and supporters are looking for another healthcare option outside of the UK. Pediatric hospital Bambin Gesù has already agreed to receive the boy and carry the fight to his illness.
Alfie's ready to go. You know, we've got the team there ready to take him. We've got the hospital here ready to take him. He's stable enough, if that's the question. The question is all the hay going to let him? And they don't want him. And that's what the frustrating question is. Why won't they let him out?
This case is similar to the case of Charlie Gard. Tom says that he is in contact with the Gard family and that they encourage him to continue to fight for Alfie's life.
I'd like to say he's awake and kicking and running around, but he's not. But how he is amazing, because he's got this undiagnosed brain disorder and he's having these seizures, and still he's there fighting hard every day, wanting to come over. Because he doesn't tell us, but he shows us. And when he shows that he needs to be given that support and help, we then fight for him, and that's why I'm here today, to fight for him, to get him brought over to here to be treated.
Tom holds a rosary in his hand and says that he will put it in Alfie's hand and that they will pray together to get him from England to Rome.
We just want the best for our child, and that's all we're going to try for.
Thanks for watching. Get ready to take a look at Holy See diplomacy in action. Welcome back. You're watching Vaticano.
During this April, the group of governmental experts on lethal autonomous weapons systems met in Geneva at the United Nations. The Holy See delegation expressed their hopes that a unanimous legal and ethical framework could finally be established. We discussed certain topics of the convention with the Holy See delegation's advisor, a Catholic physicist and scientist.
Science can even help us to understand faith.
In fact, science is the discovery of a marvelous gift given to us by God. Creation is a kind of gift, and in fact science is exploring this gift.
Based on current laws and on our Catholic understanding of ethics, is there not a contradiction of legitimate ethical and legal matters?
Yes, we can have locally some contradiction. In fact, it is what one can call the coherence, the anthropological coherence principle. We have to go to a situation where legal frameworks and our action are completely compatible with what a human person is.
One thing is certainly clear. The development of laws will provide the capacity of altering irreversibly the nature of warfare, becoming even more inhumane, putting in question the humanity of our societies and in any case, compelling all states to reassess their military capabilities.
Are there any human wars? And will the reassessment of military capabilities not only lead to increased armament?
Well, I think that every war is inhumane, but certain particular military technologies can in fact increase the inhuman characteristic of the war.
So when we're talking about the armament, that countries will be maybe inclined to even, increase their armament if they reassess it based on a new technology, isn't there that risk also there?
A bet raised to more and more powers and so on, and the lack of confidence in a peaceful situation. It is true, we have to be careful and to limit this growth.
Any technology, including autonomous weapons, in order to be acceptable, must be compatible and consistent with the proper conception of the human person, the very foundations of law and ethics.
The conception of the human person, as Catholics, don't we draw our conception from "you shall not kill"?
The basic principle is always, remains always, to defend the dignity and the life of the person, and as Catholic is important not to lose this basic principle.
I mean, since these weapon systems can never be morally responsible for their actions, shouldn't Catholics and Christians not just flat out oppose this and are in favor of banning these type of weapons just like that?
Yes, the position could be when you lose the responsibility, and when you cannot identify clearly the responsible person for very important action, then you have to forbid this kind of devices, military or not.
So this was our first part of the interview. In the second part of our interview, we're talking about exactly that, responsibility for the actions of the machine, and also we're talking about the right to war, or as in the Catholic faith we talk about the just war. Does this exist and what it is?
The purpose of this convention is to end the arms race, to build trust among states and the realization of the desire of all peoples to live in peace.
Ireland's pro-life battle is in full swing, as in a few days the Irish population will be posed with a simple question: whether they want to uphold or repeal the 8th Amendment of their constitution, which literally means either to support the introduction of legalized abortion or to keep it prohibited. Declan Ganley, one of the speakers for the Irish Rally for Life pro-life organization, shared with us here in Rome how the 8th Amendment safeguards women and unborn children.
God bless you and God save Ireland!
Well, the Irish Constitution is pretty unique in the world insofar as that it recognises in Article 8 of the Irish Constitution the right to life of preborn girls and boys. This is a very progressive piece of constitutional law, and I think that the effect of stripping away that law, of removing it from the Irish Constitution, would have a very negative impact on human rights, and of course a negative impact on families. Thousands and thousands of lives will be lost if the 8th Amendment is taken away.
The pro-choice and pro-abortion groups that have pushed for this referendum to take place frame this initiative as a tool for reducing the suffering of women and making reproductive health more just. Declan doesn't agree with this perspective.
But to be very, very clear, this vote on taking away the Eighth Amendment would be to remove the rights of all preborn boys and girls, not some, all of them. It would remove that right so that any of them, at a choice, could be lawfully killed. And there is no morality that can support that kind of outcome.
I'm very close to this question because I studied, I'm a nurse and a midwife, and I've just finished a doctorate on abortion and the right to life. And so for an Irish person to have a referendum coming up right now in the same year that the Pope is coming to Ireland, it's very important.
Pope Francis will travel to Dublin to participate in the World Meeting of Families that will take place at the end of August this year.
It's a great honour for us in Ireland that the Pope is coming to Ireland. It's in August when he comes. Right now we're focused on one thing, and that's the referendum to save the Eighth Amendment, which is on the 25th of May. We'll get through that. Please God, we will win, and in the aftermath prepare for the visit of the Pope.
We can get out and vote. Every person in Ireland has a vote. Those who feel that this is important, don't stay at home and leave it to somebody else to vote. Get out and vote. Your vote is worth a life.
Apart from participating in the referendum, people can also support the Eighth Amendment by joining local social media campaigns.
There are two major campaigns in Ireland, Save the Eighth, hashtag Save the Eighth, all one word, numeral 8, TH, and Love Both, another hashtag. Support us on social media. There are all sorts of other ways that you can be of support.
Aidan Gallagher, Director of EWTN in Ireland, discusses how EWTN Ireland is involved in this battle.
EWTN Ireland, we are working with around 40 pro-life groups, pro-family groups and prayer groups, as well as social commentators, to raise the value and the issue in this referendum, which is the protection of the baby in the womb and the welfare of the mother. So we are looking to produce some video pieces with an appeal to promote the Rosary in Ireland and across the world.
Aidan says that prayer is the most powerful tool to protect families in unborn life.
So the Rosary Novena for Ireland starts on the Easter Sunday, so it's currently running and will finish on Thursday, the day before the referendum. That's Thursday the 24th of May. So if the viewers go to rosaryforireland.com and participate in the Rosary, even though the novena has begun, that would be a tremendous benefit, again, to gain wisdom and courage for the Irish people at this time. And I would like to say that if even one Hail Mary was said, for this cause, no matter where you are in the world, as St. Louis de Montfort has told us, the one Hail Mary said by the faithful can have a very powerful value, and we pray that that will be significant for us here in Ireland.
And Aidan invites everyone to start praying today for Ireland by simply including the intention, Protect Ireland from Abortion, in their daily rosary. In a few moments, we'll be back with more on Vaticano. More on Vaticano begins now. Natalia Tsarkova is the official portrait artist of the popes. She's been well known in the Vatican since St. John Paul II commissioned his portrait from her in the year 2000. This large oil-on-canvas painting is the culmination of 7 years of hard work.
And so my battle with the serpent lasted for 7 years. I joined St. George in his fight, and now the picture is finished. It happened that I finished it right before the celebration of the Saint Day, and I felt that it was necessary to show it to Pope Francis and get his blessing.
для благословения.
Natalia presented her painting to the Holy Father on April the 18th. She says that the Pope liked it very much. St. George is the patron saint of the pontiff, as the baptism name of the Pope is a Spanish variation of George, Jorge. The Pope blessed the painting and supported Natalia's initiative in working to establish peace and harmony through the diplomacy of art, working to achieve this goal by exhibiting her artwork in Rome, Moscow, and London.
Это святой Георгий нашего тысячелетия, третьего тысячелетия.
This is Saint George of our millennium, and the serpent is evil. The evil represented in all of its manifestations. The snake vomits mortal sins. Saint George pierces the snake, and these mortal sins are expelled and then crushed by the hoof of this white horse, which symbolizes the power of Christ.
Символизирует силу Христа.
This work is a first in the history of art, because by piercing the dragon with the piercing of prayer, the saint on horseback forces it to expel the human tragedies that evil stimulates.
Сам дракон, который смотрит на нас этим.
The dragon who looks at us with his huge eye is almost dying. It becomes contaminated water and grows into pipes, through which clouds of contaminated smoke rises and kills all surrounding life. There is still clean land, a clean lake, a lake of peace. On the shore of the lake there is a stone that represents St. Peter, and here nearby there is a water mill that embodies the living water and the bread of life, the Eucharist.
Хлеб Евхаристии, Евхаристию, которое Слово Божие.
The small fleet of ships represent people. The woman that holds the lamb is a princess who St. George saved from the dragon. The princess is, in fact, a self-portrait of the author. Natalia feels very connected to the battle with evil, and she wants not only to be saved, but to also contribute to this battle.
У этой картины, думаю, миссия особая, потому что...
This piece has a special mission because of the situation in our world today. In the world there is no peace, and therefore St. George must go to Moscow and to London, England, with a mission, since it is the saint of both powers and the patron of Moscow and London.
Как России, так и Лондона.
Natalia hopes that St. George becomes a stimulus for those two great nations, Great Britain and Russia, to work towards a return to dialogue, starting from the acknowledgement of their common patron saint, St. George.
This is a call to humanity. Please remember there is still clean land and that life can still be saved if you now convert and work to save it.
The other message of the painting is to highlight and draw attention to the reality and catastrophe of the current ongoing contamination of the earth, our shared home. With this painting, Natalia also wants to spread the message of our responsibility towards nature, which Pope Francis emphasized in his encyclical letter Laudato Si.
Ему это очень понравилось, он благословил картину.
The Pope really enjoyed it. He blessed the picture for this mission and journey, and he also blessed me. I asked for a blessing to have the strength for this journey.
Чтобы иметь силы на это путешествие.
Natalia hopes that the future exhibition of the painting St. George of the Third Millennium will also refocus and strengthen the dialogue between the Catholic, Orthodox, and Anglican churches, and will act as a clarion call to renew the fight against evil together.
St. George does not look at the dragon because everything is already clear, but he looks at the sin and into the evil that has already been seeped into our generation, and he is looking at us as well. Therefore, the figure of St. George is not redundant. It is a message that he is needed also in this century. His mission has not ended, and we all have to help St. George to fight evil, fight the serpent.
Еще его миссия не закончилась, и мы все должны помогать Святому Георгию бороться со злом, со змеем.
Natalia considers herself as a bridge between Orthodox and Catholics. A Russian Orthodox herself, based in Rome, she bears witness that Christians can do so much more if they're united. Join us next week on Vaticano, recalling the events of Fatima that predicted the course of 20th century history. Thanks for watching.